and welcome back to the Twin Cities Fencing Club channel. My name is Aslan. I fence epee at the club. This is the second video in this workout series we're doing, so you don't have to go back to the first one, but if you want to, it's going to be linked somewhere around here once I figure out how to do that. Before we delve into the exercises today, I wanted to talk about some motivational stuff with working out at home when you don't have your club environment. If you're not interested in that, you can skip ahead to whatever pops up on screen. If you are interested in learning about a few tips that have worked for me in my personal experience, then stay tuned for the next few minutes. Some people naturally are very good at building their own routines and sticking to a schedule. Some people, like me, are really bad at it. Personally speaking, I'm someone I do much better when someone tells me what to do and tells me where to be, when to be there. In my 15 and a half years of fencing, it's been a struggle pretty much all of those 15 years to learn how to tell myself to go to the gym and tell myself to go work out on my own when I don't really want to. So in some ways, having this time where we're stuck at home and we can't go to a scheduled routine practice is really hard. It's nightmarish almost, because I have no one to tell me what to do except me. So a couple of things that I've been working on the last year or two to try and work on this problem in general. One of the things that has become really helpful that I got as a piece of advice from another athlete is rewarding yourself for good behavior, so to speak. So no matter how little or small or big, every day when you do something, you tell yourself you did a good job. It's really easy, especially if you're a perfectionist a little bit, to do something and think, well, that was okay, but I really should be doing better. I should be doing more. I need to do better next time. And like, that's fine. It's good to push yourself. It's good to keep your goals a little higher every time. But that shouldn't mean you should discredit what you did in that moment. So if you go outside and you go jog for 5 minutes, tell yourself you did a good job. If that's all you did that day, that's totally fine. But if you then go work out for a full hour with a warm-up and a full strength training routine, you do stretching, for sure tell yourself I did a good job. Reward yourself with positive internal feedback, because at the end of the day, however many people can tell you you did a good job and they're proud of you, but if you can't tell yourself that, or you're not practicing telling yourself that, it's hard to bring yourself out of a rut. So learn to reward yourself for good behavior, even if it's small, whether it's large. Just tell yourself you did a good job. It's really important to be able to say that to yourself, both for sports and school, work, whatever you're doing. Being able to acknowledge that you did something well or that you accomplished a task is really, really important. One method that works for some people is working out at the same time every day. With fencing, our practices are very scheduled. We're always practicing in the evening. So naturally, I find I'm not really a morning person for workouts. I don't really want to do anything, even if it's at 10 in the morning. That still feels too early. Try to figure out what time of the day works for you with your workouts. So if you find you really like running after breakfast or before breakfast, that's one way to approach the problem, is just work out at the same time or times every day. For me, I always want to do that, and somehow it never happens because my schedule changes so much, so I have to be more flexible. Another philosophy I came across recently, which I've been trying out since being in self-isolation, is you can miss a day without doing something, but you can never miss more than a day. So if you work out Monday, you work out Tuesday, you don't work out Wednesday, you have to make sure you work out Thursday. And then you can miss Friday, and then you have to make sure you work out Saturday. So you can skip a day. Now, that sounds a little bit hard-nosed because, plans change, of course. Now, this, however, works really well in conjunction with just do a little bit of something every day. So if you have a Monday where you work out for a full hour and you feel super virtuous and you've done a really good job, great. You can feel happy, you can reward yourself. And then Tuesday, you're really, really tired, you're really sore, you just do not want to do anything, just everything hurts too much. Okay, you could use that as a skip day, or you could go spend 5 minutes and do some balancing exercises. You could do 5 minutes and work on some of your wrist strength or your forearm strength. It can be something really minor. You can go outside and go for a walk for 10 minutes. Doing something every day doesn't have to be a big thing, it can be small. By building up this something every day, you're naturally going to become a little more motivated. It's sort of self-fulfilling, so the more you do it, the easier it gets, and then you do it more. And then having it as a one-day rule just makes it feel a little more manageable. Sometimes I've tried this, I would plan out my whole week where I'm like, fencing practice 4 days a week on these days, yoga 3 days a week on these days, like going to the gym on these days. And it's like, sure, I have a schedule, but there's no room to breathe. And then if I miss a day, I feel like I'm letting myself down. Either I feel like I have to do that, or I'm doing what I'm doing now, which is every day I'm doing a little bit of something. And I'm naturally finding that it's like, I hate running. I'm really not a runner. Oh, I shouldn't say I hate running because I'm doing it more now and it's actually kind of okay. But I'm finding myself going running more often because now that I've gotten that ball started, and this is still painful and hard, but it's a little more built in that like every day I'm like, oh, this can be my thing for the day. And then as that it gets easier, I'm like, oh, this is my thing for the day plus this other thing for the day. But it gets the ball rolling just by doing a little bit of something. And then if I need a day off every once in a while where I'm just like, it's a relaxed day and I need a break, that's totally fine. You get your one day and the next day you can do something small or large. So in summary, rewarding yourself for good behavior, no matter how small it is, by saying you did a good job, positive self-talk. It's a really, really big thing. And a lot of high-level athletes engage in this all the time. It's very hard to do a sport or an activity for a long period of time if you aren't internally happy. And ideally, if you're doing fencing, you're doing it because you like it. Tell yourself you did a good job. And then the other approach is one-day rule where you can miss a day and that's okay. Just make sure you do something the next day, no matter how small it is. Right now I've got a calendar going where I mark off every day I've done activity. I write down what the activity was. I don't go into a ton of detail. I'm like, run, I went for a walk, I did some workout. But then I can cross it off, and visually that's super rewarding for me. So if you want to do a calendar, you print it off and you cross off the days you do something, go for it. And then it plus helps you keep track of when you've actually had a day off versus when you haven't. So these are my personal opinions, things that have and have not worked for me. I'm not a trained psychologist. If you've tried anything like this and it hasn't worked for you, it's totally fine. Lots of other things you can try, but if you haven't and you're struggling with making yourself do something every day, or you feel like you're overwhelmed, you can't because it won't be like what you really want to be doing or won't be good enough, give it a try. Start easy, start small, be positive about yourself and what you're doing. It's really important that you do this because you like it. All right. So without further ado, this is the point where I'm gonna pause and go warm up, which is what you should be doing, and then we'll do the workout. So I did end up doing my run, but then I got sidetracked for an entire day and had to do the warm up in my living room. So this is me just bouncing around, jogging in place, getting myself warmed up a little bit before we actually get into the main workout. Personally, I like listening to podcasts most of the time, sometimes some music. It definitely helps keep some of this from getting too boring while I'm just standing around in place looking outside. So the first exercise we're going to do are called hand to elbow planks. These are going to be done in a plank position, and it is pretty much what it sounds like, where you can start in your hands or your elbows, and then you're going to go down onto the elbow of one arm and then the other, and then push back up in a cyclical fashion. You want to make sure you keep your back straight and keep your neck in a neutral position, and also make sure to breathe throughout this whole exercise. It's a pretty intensive exercise. And depending on what kind of flooring you have, I would really recommend getting some padding. So a towel or a yoga mat or like a jacket, anything, just give your elbows some cushion. These exercises are called bent over flies. You'll see why in a moment. This is a great time if you have any weights at home or heavy cans, or if you're lucky like me and you have tube masks at home, you can use as weights. Really anything you do, or you can do it without weights, and that's just fine. But in this case, you're going to stand, as I corrected myself, with a little bit of space between your feet, And then you're going to contract your shoulder blades and your back together to draw your arms up. So you want to think about lifting, contracting through your shoulder blades and through your back, not so much necessarily your arms. And of course, generally keeping your neck in a neutral position. You don't really want to crane up at the ceiling or look way down at your feet at the floor all the time. Now we're getting into some dynamic core exercises. So this is a standing crossbody crunch. Standing implies, yes, you can do this on the floor if you're having troubles balancing while you're doing standing. But for this case, it's a great way to work on your hip flexors, on your abdominal muscles, and then it's a little more dynamic, so you're a bit more engaged than just standing there and holding something for a while. Since it is dynamic, make sure you continue breathing throughout this exercise. I find I get into a nice rhythm between each crunch with breathing in and breathing out. You definitely don't want to hold your breath during this or any exercise ever. The next exercise is called a single leg deadlift. You are going to want a weight of some kind, so your mask or again, anything moderately heavy, medicine balls. You can do it without, but I always find that having a weight helps to counterbalance. The two most notable things about this exercise are you are going to be hinging at your hips. So as you bend over, one leg is going to come up, and ideally you want to try and keep the plane between your leg and your back even. The other factor, which can be a little difficult to see, is keeping your hips flat relative to each other. So in this case, my right hip is trying to stay in line with my left hip, and vice versa when I switch sides. Otherwise, this is a really great exercise because it works on a bunch of things at once. It's really good for your hamstrings, your back, your core, and then also ankle stability, as you can see me wobbling a lot as I try to do this correctly. The very last and relatively easiest exercise we're going to do are just some basic ball squeezes. So if you have a squishy ball like mine, a stress ball, you could probably just roll up a sock into a ball and that would work just as well. Anything that'll provide some moderate resistance. And then you're just going to hold it in one hand and contract. Try to make sure you're engaging all of your fingers. You're not letting your pinky slide off to the side or anything like that. And then this is just super good for working on your forearm strength. Make sure you do it both the left and the right side. We want to try and prevent the left side or your off weapon hand from getting too neglected. Yay, we made it to the end. Once again, I'm just doing some static stretching on the floor. I always find it's kind of meditative, so I like doing that. Try to make sure you hold each stretch for 15 to 30 seconds each, and then do your best to relax into the stretch. Do a few good inhales and then exhales, and try and stretch or reach or sink a little bit further every time. But don't stretch to the point where you're feeling sharp pain. That's kind of overkill. You just want a nice gentle stretch and feeling relaxed. And of course, part of this is you're getting your respiratory rate and your heart rate back down. So you're cooling down, you're relaxing. Make sure to stretch all of the major muscle groups that you did today, including the ones in your forearms, so don't forget those wrist stretches. Otherwise, if you have any additional feedback or comments or things you'd like me to talk about or not talk about, any exercises you're curious about, let me know. You can leave a comment on the video, or if you know me, you can message me directly. Anyway, thanks for watching and spending some of your time with me, and we will see you next workout.